Welcome, everyone, to the 930 Club and NPR Music's celebration of our 15th anniversary. Doesn't seem that long ago that we were here for the 10th. I got to be honest with you. We had a lot of fun that night, and we're going to have more fun tonight because one of the things we're doing this year is we're going to have a series of pre-show interviews with some of the artists, and I'm extremely honored to be able to do this interview tonight with Cima Funk. Cima Funk, welcome to the 930 Club, and welcome to the anniversary show.
Thank you. The honor is mine. Finally. Thanks.
First of all, let me explain that if you haven't seen the band, you're in for a treat, okay? We presented them at South by Southwest about 4 years ago on a Friday night. They performed on a Wednesday night for a different organization, so I went to go check out the show, that first one at Speakeasy, and I was blown away. And then the night for our show, it was in a small little room, the Cantina, I forget, the Cantina Club or something, and it was so full and there was a line outside because the band had become the talk of the weekend, right? It was just the hottest ticket in town. And you guys came out and killed again for another 50 minutes.
Thanks, bro.
What struck me was the uniqueness and the combination of the funk and the Afro-Cuban music, right? And I'm a fan of both for a long time. But let's start with talking about your name, okay? Cima Funk. Explain the history behind that name.
Cima Funk is two words. Cima came from the word cimarrón. Cimarrón for us in Cuba is the maroons, the slave that escaped from the house of the master in the slavery time in Cuba. And they go deep in the mountain to live by themselves. So in Cuba was a couple important village hiding in the mountains that was maroons, the majority of people that was living there, and kids born in that kind of places with different culture because was a lot of mix for different tribes. And yeah, for me, the maroon is the main character of the Afro-Cuban sound, especially the groove, the danceable groove of Afro-Cuban. So the funk is almost the same for me in my interpretation because it's all the heritage of the African that bring to America, and yeah, every day start to develop the rhythm, the music, and the funk came out and is super similar to all the Afro-Cuban vibe.
I want to talk about something that you and I have talked about before, is your fascination and your appreciation for funk from the United States, right? Tell us how you discovered that music and what impression did it make on you then?
The crazy thing is that I start to listen actually that, and when I didn't know what was that, I wasn't into the music environment. I was singing since I'm a kid, but once I start to listen music, I received like a DVD. That's what we call in Cuba, a small device where you put a CD and you can see video or you can hear music. So that was the moment when I started to hear like music every day, everywhere, and I hear a band from Spain called O Fonquillo. That was like the first hit of that kind of groove. And once I hear that, I was like, I don't know what kind of music is this, but I love it. I love the groove. I love this kind of aggressive hit on the one. And now is when I understand what it was about. And once I understand that, I just start to look music. In 2015, I was able to travel for the first time in a cruise ship. And once I just take the first plane, I get to the Panama airport. And once I arrive there, I just start to see YouTube, and I get crazy with all the live shows of James Brown, of Ohio Players, Sly and Family Stone, Funkadelic, all the greatest. And once they got me, you don't have another way to follow that.
That's the music. I'm going to give it away my age. That's music from my generation, man.
I'm from mine too.
Right?
I'm from mine too.
Yeah. Because that music it was, like you said, start from James Brown on. Mm-hmm. It was just, and it was very specific. The bands, with few exceptions, is from the African American neighborhoods, right? Mm. And they were popular then, and then they started growing out and becoming popular in the mainstream, like Ohio Players. Mm. They had like 4 or 5 albums out before they were actually having a hit in the mainstream. So I'm curious about how African Americans have been relating to your music as you start traveling more here in the United States.
In all sense, the thing is that the information is the main thing, because I didn't have the information before, and once I start to look the information, we have been connecting since always. We have been connected since the Afro-Cuban movement arrived to New York. and was Pachito and the Afro-Cubans that started to play here in the nightclubs and especially down there. And you was an incredible time. Also, all the scene of Manteca, all this great movement of Afro-Cuban Perez Prado, everything that happened with the mambo, with the cha-cha-cha, that was that was the base for all the danceable music that you hear today. Most big part of that. If you hear Marvin Gaye, once I start to listen a lot, I'm a big fan of Marvin. You hear in the percussion that is Afro-Cuban, it's pika chaku pika chaku pika chaku pika chaku pee pee chakata pee pee chakata pee pee. And then you hear James Brown also, and you hear that they got the rhythm on the conga. They play open, they don't pack pack, but they play pee pee chakatu bee ba to pika chaku bee ba chakatu bee ba. But it's Afro-Cuban 100%, and it's a lot of music genre and music style that have this injection of Afro-Cuban because was that hit a lot when I arrived to New York. I was talking with Clinton, with George, and he was telling me that when he was young, he was a barber. He was working as a barber. And he told me that in the R&B radio station, the Afro-Cuban music was all the time in the top. They was playing that all day long. And in Jersey, the people was dressing with the Cuban, like the Cuban gowns, all this kind of style with the hat and things. So it was really popular at that time, and you feel now in the music. I feel it now because I grew up listening to Cuban music, and I feel it in the danceable music here. So the connection is forever.
So let's go back a little bit. When you're listening to music in Cuba as a kid, before you discovered funk music here from the United States, what were you listening to? Who were the artists that were your favorites? Who were the artists that your parents were listening to at home?
I grew up listening Bam Bam. I grew up listening Irakere, Juana Gallao, that is one of my favorite artists from all. And I grew up listening Chucho Valdez, of course. He's like a grandfather for all of us. A lot of people, Charanga Banera, the album from Charanga Banera was tired at the time. Manolito Simonet and the Trabuco. All these Cuban band I was listening a lot, but also my uncle had this Moscovy car, and he have like the device for hear music. So he bring couple cassette because he studied in a school with African guys, and he bring couple of cassette of Bob Marley, Stevie Wonder. Was the first time that I hear Stevie was there. The first time that I listened Michael was there with Invisible, the album Invisible. Also was Lionel Richie, Madonna. Was a lot of Phil Collins also. And also music from the church. I was in the church at that time when I was a kid, and I started to sing there, so I was listening a lot of music from church.
A couple of years ago, it was 2016, I was able to take my first trip to Havana and spent some time there. And I did a podcast, Alt Latino podcast, and I called it, well, the politicians argued, the musicians jammed, right? Because that's what they do. I mean, the cultural exchange never stops, right? Because the idea, the stories that you're telling about being able to hear Lionel Richie and Madonna, even when our governments are against each other, right, or not on the friendly terms, the music, you can't stop the music, right?
Definitely, it's human sins. Yeah. You cannot stop this. The groovies go everywhere.
The last time you were here, I got a chance to play with the band a little bit, right? And when I was playing conga, I'd never experienced this before. I mean, listening to the band and appreciating it from the audience is one thing, but I could tune in on the conga, like an Afro-Cuban beat, or I can tune into a funk beat because the bass player's popping the bass like a funk player. Like you can go back and forth. I was listening, I was going to come and do this a little bit, and listen, I can do this a little bit. How did you guys develop that? What was the point that you could feel like, okay, this is working, this is exactly what we wanted to do? Because I don't hear this kind of thing anywhere else.
I don't know, man. It's about connection. It's the groove. It's the groove. When I start to make the band, I try with other guys because most of the musicians that most of the band now, they was playing in other places. Other one was studying. So I started to try with another band, but at the beginning it was difficult because I don't know the theoric music. So I know the rhythms and I create the songs playing the rhythm with the mouse. So the musician that I was working was a really experienced musician. It was really difficult at the beginning. Tell them I don't know, the guitar player playing a when I was saying that, I was yeah, I understand, but you have to write to me. I need that you to write. I say I don't know how to write, just playing what you're hearing. I was difficult at the time, so I called Dr. Sapa, that now is my musical director. He have been working with me since the beginning in many other projects. And I called him and we're like, let's put a band together with young people from the school, just people that, that not play everywhere and without experience. And yeah, we start to pick each one of them, and we start to talk a lot. I start to talk a lot about music. I start to share the music that I was listening. We start to get together in the same kind of vibe of communication of you have to enjoy it before you have to be happy with this in the stage for the people understand and be happy too. So for that reason we have to be in connection. It's all about connection. That's what the groove is. It's just everybody's making their own small piece and we are putting these pieces in the time. And that's what made the difference in what time you're gonna have your small piece and for how long. Being aware of the silence, and that also is really important for the funk. So once we start to talk and we start to play, we start to understand better. Everybody start to understand better. We start to know each other better, and then you start to feel that it's a groove happening. And that moment, when you start to feel that for real we are together in the groove, that's the most happy thing. So you try to keep in that way. So every day you play less, every day you place more on the one, and every day you find the right things, tell more with less.
It's very Miles Davis.
Yeah, yeah, I think,
right? More with less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, pingao.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a teacher, it's a teacher.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the artists that you've been able to connect with since you've been playing here in the United States. And let's go back to you meeting George Clinton. Okay?
Yes, sir.
What was that like, and what did he say?
Man, the greatest. I've been fan of Funkadelic since the first moment, and meet George was a real Funkadelic experience. We just get into the studio, and he was jamming the whole time and making all this kind of sound with mouse. And you know, when you hear Funk Aspirin, that is the first song of the album, he's just jamming on the song. Like, I feel sorry for the dance floor. What is a booty and how will I know if I'm shaking it? It's kind of saying he's making that Funkadelic scene and also giving me a lot of advice on how he's seen that I could record the vocals and talking a lot of the Afro-Cuban music because he's a really lover of the mambo specifically. He was super happy of being in the project, and I was, I guess 100% in the lucky way to meet him. And after we played together also, he was in a show in Miami. He was there, and we keep seeing us. We get sharing, and I keep learning from him.
Who are some of the other artists that you've been able to perform with that have made an impression that you were happy to meet?
Chucho Valdés.
Yeah.
Chucho Valdés also. The last show that we was together, the last show was with Chucho, with Pablo, and with Pancho Céspedes in Spain. It was a beautiful moment of my career, one of the best moments of my career. And yeah, me, Chucho, have been a blessing because he's like a godfather for me, and he just keeps supporting me and supporting the band and the music, and it's incredible. And I'm learning a lot from him too. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would suspect that he sees a little something of himself in you because he certainly, Chucho Valdés blazed a lot of trails in Cuban music and really created a lot of new things that were new to Cuban music, just as you're doing. So
he was making funk in the 90s.
Yeah, yeah. What about contemporary artists? Any rappers? Any hip hop artists?
Yeah, of course. Well, in the album is a Stylo G, that is a great rapper. Also, is Lupe Fiasco. This guy put the line like a band. He killed it. The son is Goyo. She's from Colombia. She's great. She was with me also in the show in Hollywood. And yeah, it's CeeLo Green also in Afro-Cuban future music. That he just sing in Spanish, and was a beautiful line of CeeLo. I'm a big fan of CeeLo. He's one of the best singers from all times, for sure. And also is Los Papines, that they are the greatest. And El Micha too, that is a Cuban rapper. But it's a lot of people, like people from this generation and even younger generation that I really admire, and I trying to share stage and music with them every time that I can.
Yeah. Who is on your list, your wish list, your favorites that you'd like to record with?
Oh, there's a lot of people, man. That's difficult. I'm a big fan of Anderson .Paak. I'm a big fan of him, the way that he arranged the music, the way that he put the lyrics in the tempo. I really love the way that he do the things. I also have this crazy dream of being able to share time in the studio with Sly. I would love to meet him and share some time in the studio. And it's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. Also, it's of course Corey Henry that is here. It's a blessed to be here with him. I admire him from his beginning. Her, I love her, and Daniel Caesar too.
Yeah.
It's a lot of young people from my generation and from another one that
Yeah.
I really admire.
Well, sky's the limit, bro. You know?
That's what I say.
Yeah, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Sima Funk.
Thank you. Thank you very much.